The cold Atlantic winds howled across the deck of the Mary Celeste, carrying with them an eerie silence that defied the natural order of the sea. It was December 5, 1872, when the crew of the British brig Dei Gracious stumbled upon her adrift, her sails fluttering lazily against the mast, her hull cutting a lonely figure against the endless expanse of blue. Captain David Morehouse of the Dei Gracious recognized her immediately. She was a sturdy American brigantine, commanded by Captain Benjamin Briggs, a man Morehouse had shared drinks and laughter with just weeks earlier. But as the Dei Gracious drew closer, unease crept into the hearts of the men aboard. The Mary Celeste seemed wrong. Her movements were unnatural, swaying not with the rhythm of the waves but with an unsettling irregularity. The sails hung torn and weather-beaten, as if she'd sailed through a tempest, yet the skies had been clear for days. No one answered the hail. With mounting dread, Morehouse ordered a boarding party. First Mate Oliver DeVoe led the small crew as they clambered aboard the ghostly ship. The air on the Mary Celeste was thick and heavy, a cloying stillness that made the hair on the back of DeVoe's neck stand on end. The deck was deserted, but it bore no signs of violence. The lifeboat was gone, and a faint, inexplicable odor of sulfur lingered in the air. DeVoe descended into the ship's bowels, lantern in hand. The galley was untouched, a pot of food still perched precariously on the stove. In the captain's quarters, Captain Briggs' belongings lay neatly arranged, a sense of order amidst the chaos. But the ship's log ended abruptly, mid-sentence, as if Briggs had been interrupted by something unspeakable. The cargo hold was unremarkable at first glance, filled with barrels of denatured alcohol meant for trade. Yet one barrel was open, its contents spilled across the floor. DeVoe knelt to inspect it but recoiled in horror as his lantern's glow caught something unnatural, a patch of charred wood and a strange, dark stain. "It's as if fire kissed the wood," he murmured, but his words faltered as he noticed something moving. A shadow flickered across the corner of his vision, slithering like smoke. He spun around, lantern raised, but saw nothing. The air grew colder. On deck, the rest of the boarding party waited, fidgeting nervously. One of them, a young sailor named Harris, whispered, "I don't like this. It's as if the ship's alive." Before anyone could respond, a blood-curdling scream erupted from below. It was DeVoe. The men rushed to the hold, but when they arrived, they found him alone, wide-eyed and trembling. His lantern lay shattered, the flame extinguished. "What happened?" Morehouse demanded. DeVoe shook his head, his voice barely a whisper. "I saw something. It wasn't human. Shadows, moving like they're alive. And the whispering, God, the whispering." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. They decided to tow the Mary Celeste to Gibraltar, where authorities could unravel the mystery. But as the Dei Gracious set her course, strange things began to happen. The men aboard the Mary Celeste reported hearing faint whispers, voices that seemed to echo from the ship's timbers. Footsteps echoed on the deck when no one was there. Shadows flickered in the corners of their eyes, always just out of reach. Harris was the first to break. One night, he woke the crew with a panicked scream, babbling about figures watching him from the rigging. By morning, he was gone, his bunk empty. They found no trace of him, not even footprints leading to the water. As the days dragged on, the remaining men grew increasingly paranoid. DeVoe, once a steadfast and reliable officer, started speaking in riddles, muttering about the dark between the stars. Morehouse, though determined to see the Mary Celeste to port, felt the ship's oppressive weight bearing down on his soul. On the final night before they reached Gibraltar, the storm came. Furious winds and crashing waves rocked both ships. Morehouse watched in horror as the Mary Celeste, tethered to the DEI Gracia, seemed to come alive. Her sails billowed despite the lack of wind, and her hull groaned like a beast in pain. Lightning illuminated the night, and for a brief moment, Morehouse saw them figures clad in shadow, standing on the Mary Celeste's deck, their hollow eyes glowing with an unholy light. They raised their hands as if beckoning, and Morehouse felt an icy pull, a desire to step onto the cursed ship. No! He shouted, shaking free of the spell. But it was too late. One by one, the men of the DEI Gracia succumbed. They climbed aboard the Mary Celeste, drawn by an unseen force. DeVoe was the last to go, his face twisted in a mixture of fear and longing. The storm passed, leaving the ocean eerily calm. The Mary Celeste drifted once more, her deck silent, her mystery deepened. Days later, when the Mary Celeste was found adrift again, her rescuers noted the same details: no sign of struggle, no crew, and the sulfurous odor that clung to her like a curse. The Mary Celeste remains an enigma, a silent witness to whatever horrors unfolded on her decks. Some say she carries the spirits of those lost to her, forever trapped in her timbers. Others whisper that she is a gateway, a bridge to a darkness that mankind was never meant to touch. To this day, sailors give her name a wide berth, their prayers carried on the wind. God preserve us from the Mary Celeste and her endless, haunted voyage.